What's up, tennis fans? CB Picks here. So close to going 8-0 in our round of 16 picks for the Houston Open. We finished 7-1, missed it by one. Tough three-setter by Alex Mickelson with the loss. We'll talk about that match and more in our day 6 recap, and we'll give you some picks for the next day. Let's get started. Here's a look at Shelton's half of the draw, and we already discussed the Shelton Tirante match. That's on our day 5 recap. But quick notes here on that match. I just think the Tirante is going to be a little bit too strong of a clay quarter. I think he's going to bother Shelton. I mean, Tarante's definitely a better clay quarter than Zhang. Obviously, Zhang a little bit better on the serve. He's able to hold, was able to go like back and forth with Shelton. But Shelton's going to have to play some longer points here against Tirante. And, I wouldn't even put Tirante in like the class of like clay quarters. I don't even know if I would consider him a top 20 clay quarter, but he has that experience. He can grind out points. I just feel like it's going to be a much closer match than people are thinking it's going to be. Like, I think this is going to be a tricky match. Sheldon's going to have to play some clay court tennis, and that's the thing that I'm not sure if he's going to be able to do that in some of these bigger moments. The serve's going to be coming back. Tarante's going to be grinding out some longer points. Like, these like big hitting plays from Shelton, I just don't think they're going to find success in on the clay courts. So I got to go Tirante here. I think he's going to win in 3 sets. Maybe he's able to take it in 2 tough straights, but I think he gets the job done over Shelton. Let's take a look at Tien against Burruchaga. Tien and Etcheverry, these are 2 guys that have a lot of familiarity with each other, played on challengers, then started to play on the ATP tours. They were both coming up. Obviously, both of them last year were kind of like the talk of the up-and-coming Americans, with Etcheverry having a good showing at the Australian Open, Tien having a good showing at the Australian Open, and now it seems as though they're moving in opposite directions. Tien really moving up through the rankings, and Etcheverry now back down on the challengers, where he's even struggling himself. This match was kind of a roller coaster for me. I thought Tien looked great at the beginning of the match. His movement looked good. He's doing a great job even throughout the whole match. He's mixing in the drop shot, and that makes a huge difference because he was able to fake Etcheverry out even with like that forehand drop in the continental grip, just kind of like giving him a little bit of a fake and then pushing the ball deep. So that even helps him doing that there. But there were a lot of moments too where Etcheverry hit kind of a shorter drop attempt, and Tien's able to track it down and re-drop him for a winner. There's a lot of I think Tien has a little bit of figuring out to do with how to handle, like, he hits his drop shot really well. Etcheverry not really great at getting them, but when Tien starts to play those clay quarters like Burruchaga, we'll see in the next match, he's got to figure out how to kind of follow that drop shot up, because it's not going to be like Etcheverry where the ball's not coming back. Most of these clay quarters are going to dig it back, and let's see what Tien can do after that. Yeah, that's a great shot to mix in, but let's see what you can do after that. I liked the way that Etcheverry really started to take some of the balls early from Tien and neutralize the angles that Tien was using early on in the first set. Etcheverry able to take some more balls down the line. I mean, that made him a much more aggressive player in the second set. Looked like he kind of ran out of gas towards the end, but I gotta credit Lerner. Like, he had Etcheverry moving left and right, up and back. Like, he had him on a string in the final set, and the clay court tennis looked really good. I think I'm excited to see what we're gonna get from Tien moving forward, because I think he can adapt his game. Of all of these kind of newer age Americans, I think Tien can adapt his game the most to become a solid clay quarter. So I'm really excited to see where he goes with this. Burruchaga and Nakashima, this was a nice upset for us to call. Obviously, over the number 5 seed at Nakashima. And we talked about how Burruchaga just in those winning ways, coming off the Sao Paulo Challenger, winning that, and then coming over here, getting a few days off, beating Walton, and now beating Nakashima in 3 tough sets. First set, I really liked the way he was hitting. He was taking a lot of the balls early. He just wasn't letting Nakashima set up on a lot of his shots to play offense. So you could tell, obviously, Nakashima, I think this was his first match on the clay. So you could tell a little bit discomfort moving. And then Nakashima kind of settled in, started to take the returns early, started to put a lot more pressure on Burruchaga, and that got him the second set. The third set was more like clay court. Like, I felt like Burruchaga was more aggressive in the first. The third set, he was very just like grinding a lot of these points out, basically like baiting Nakashima, saying like, whatever shot you hit, it's not gonna it's not gonna go past me. So I'm just gonna continue to roll all these back, and yeah, if you can hit one or two good shots, great, but I'm gonna win the other 5 points. And I really like that. I thought you could see the clay court experience and prowess from Burruchaga. A guy that's 13-4 now on the clay. You could just see that. He was very comfortable in the bigger situations, and he was up 4-1. I think he was up a double break. And it felt like he could have won that set 6-1. It got a little bit dicey, the nerves kind of crept in a little bit. But he was able to hold and win 5-4. He won at love. So really nice game. Again, a lot of maturity there from Burruchaga, a lot of experience on the clay. Now he plays Learner Tien, and this to me is a pretty interesting match. I was back and forth with these guys because can Burruchaga pull off another big upset against an American in this tournament? I don't know. I need to see the legs of Burruchaga. How much does he have left? I mean, this is a guy that played the 23rd of March, the 26th of March, the 27th of March, the 28th of March, the 29th of March, the 1st of April, and the 2nd of April. So like he's played so many matches. How much is this guy realistically going to have left? Because you're going to have to play longer points against Tien. Tien's not the type of guy like Nakashima. I felt like was rushing a little bit in that third set. Tien's not going to do that. He's going to lay back. He's happy to sit back and rally with you. He's going to find angles. He's going to move you around. I'm really curious to see how this happens because yes, Tien getting his feet wet, nice win over Basavaretti. Now you're playing a clay quarter. Now you're playing a guy with a lot of confidence on the clay. Obviously, again, Burruchaga not like the best of clay quarters, but still, he's got a lot of experience on the clay. I'm going to go with Tien. I feel like it's going to be 3 sets. I think Tien's going to tough out a third set. And I honestly, realistically speaking, I think if Tien was in that Nakashima situation, he would have won that match. It probably would have been like 7-5. But I think he will. I would have been surprised if he had lost a match like that. So I'm going to go Tien. Give me Learner Tien to win in 3 sets. And here's a look at Shelton's draw with our semifinal picks. Guys, don't get me wrong. There's nothing more I would love to see than a Shelton Tien semifinal. Something, just this nagging feeling that we're not going to get it. I would love to see it. I want to see that rematch. I know Shelton wants to beat Tien more than anything because he lost that match when he was sick. It was a tough 3-setter, but Shelton knew he wasn't playing 100%. And I think he wants to get back and kind of put Tien in his place. That's the type of competitor that Shelton is. Like he's an extremely aggressive competitor. So I know he wants that match. Hopefully we get it. I just think Tirante's going to be too much on the clay. It wouldn't even surprise me if it was Burruchaga Tirante. I mean, that would be. I wouldn't be happy about that because I want to see one of these guys get through. Shelton's extremely exciting to watch. I love watching Tien, but we'll see if the clay quarters can prevail here, or if maybe we get one American out to represent in the final. We'll have to wait and see. Let's move on to the next part of the draw. Here's a look at Tiafoe's half of the draw. We did discuss the Etcheverry-Paul quarterfinal matchup in our Day 5 video, but let me just give you a couple of quick notes on that one. Remember, we did have this match about, I think it was a week ago in Miami. Paul able to get through in 2 easy straight sets. Now we're on Etcheverry's turf on the clay. I think he's going to have something to say about it. I think he wants revenge. This is going to be a big match for Etcheverry. I think he's going to get up for it. Tommy Paul didn't look too sharp against Vallejo. Vallejo playing some good clay court tennis, but overall, I just thought there were way too many misses from Tommy Paul. So Etcheverry going to be able to expose some of that. He's going to play a much tighter match. We'll see if Paul can handle it. I'm going with Paul to win I'm going with Etcheverry to win in 3 sets, maybe 2 tough straights, but he's going to advance to the semifinals. Let's take a look at the next quarterfinal between Alexei Popyrin and Francis Tiafoe. We'll talk about the Tiafoe and Hijikata match first. This was a pretty tricky match for Tiafoe, and honestly, when Hijikata won that second set, I was kind of thinking that he had a lot of the momentum. He seemed to be controlling a lot of the points against Tiafoe. He was neutralizing the power of Tiafoe, and it looked like the match was moving in the wrong direction for Francis, but we got to give him credit. He just toughed out a lot of these points. I mean, that match was such a fun match to watch. I'm happy that the Houston crowd was treated to one good match. I thought the second match was not as fun, but Tiafoe does such a great job at getting the crowd amped and everything. Kevin Durant in the crowd that night as well. He looked really, I don't know if you guys saw him, he looked really crammed into his seat. I don't know if these tennis seats are made for tall basketball players, but great to see him there supporting another fellow athlete. Tiafoe is able to get through. Again, a nice match for him to get his feet wet. Hijikata's not an easy customer to play, so a really nice match for Tiafoe to get the win. He gets through. He's going to play Alexei Popyrin, and this Mickelson-Popyrin match was a very big disappointment for me. I really felt like Mickelson should have won this match, and he just never gave himself a chance. I mean, first set, Popyrin wins his service game, breaks Mickelson, and Mickelson's already kind of like a little bit down, kind of yelling at himself, yelling at his box, and it's just like, if you're in your own way, we talked about this a little bit with Jumer in the other tournament. I can't even remember which one it is. We talked about this with him playing on the court. Sometimes, like, tennis players have a tendency to kind of get in their own ways, and it's like the only thing standing in front of you is yourself. And Mickelson, for sure, I don't care what surface it is, he's the better player than Popyrin. He just couldn't get anything started today. He was missing, and he was just playing very negative, and I feel like that starts to get you down. Now, he was able to kind of rally the crowd a little bit and get some momentum. It was a tough back and forth match where Mickelson was able to get a break, gave it back, got a break again, and then able to hold and win the second set. And you kind of felt like maybe the tide had turned. Like, all he had to do was play like some semblance of aggressive tennis and just move Popyrin. We talk about Alexei Popyrin. His movement isn't great. Just expose the movement. Get some drop shots in there, move him side to side. Easier said than done, of course. The third set to me was really tough to watch, and I don't say that to be mean. I just Mickelson is such a talented player, and I was watching him play, thinking, this is a guy that just beat Taylor Fritz like a week and a half ago, and he looked so strong. He was playing so confident, and today it looked like he didn't even know what to do. His footwork was all screwed up because of the clay. He wasn't trusting his forehands. The serve was just kind of going awry, and everything, everything was going wrong. But that's a perfect example. If you let the bad thoughts in, if you let these things start to go wrong, and that's all you're focused on. And you could hear him. He's yelling at his box, saying, like, I missed 4 balls, 4 returns. I can't believe I missed them. Sometimes you just got to get over that stuff and move forward. He hit the ball out of the stands. He threw his racket. It just was a lot of negativity from Mickelson. So hopefully he's going to be able to discover the clay court confidence moving forward, because this does worry me. Look, going into the clay season, he might not be a guy that we want to pick. I did talk about in the first set of the Coleman Wong match how his footwork did not look great. How his movement didn't look strong. And today it really seemed to be exposed a lot, where he just wasn't moving as confidently as he normally does on the hard court. And I really think, we put these guys on a hard court, even if they played again tonight on a hard court, Mickelson's going to win that match. But we got to credit to Alexei Popyrin. He realized what was going on the other side of the net, and he knew all he had to do was just kind of put some balls back up the middle, and the error would be coming. So Popyrin able to get through this match 6-0, 4-6, 6-1, beating Mickelson. He now takes on Frances Tiafoe. Their head-to-head is 1-1, tied up here. Let's go through both of those matches. They met in New York. If you guys remember, that was a year that Popyrin had that big run, winning the Masters, I believe, and then getting an upset against Novak Djokovic in the U.S. Open. He loses a tough 4-setter to Frances Tiafoe, 6-4, 7-6, 2-6, 6-3. And fun fact, guys, I was actually there for that match. I spent the whole weekend at the U.S. Open, and it was an awesome experience, guys. If you ever have a chance to get to the U.S. Open, please do. It is just something I can't even describe. No words can describe how much fun the U.S. Open is. I was able to watch this match in person, and Frances Tiafoe obviously had the crowd. The Popyrin serve was kind of what impressed me a lot, and I remember seeing it in the first couple of sets and thinking, how is Tiafoe going to break this guy? He got one game where he was able to get that break in the first, and then they were back and forth in the second, and I felt like if Popyrin won that set, I think he probably was going to win that match. So credit to Tiafoe for toughing that out. That was a really good win, really tough win for Frances Tiafoe in the 4th round of the U.S. Open. They met next in 2025 in Monte Carlo. 2nd round, Popyrin won that one 3-6, 6-3, 6-3. So this is going to be a really interesting meeting, guys. Alexei Popyrin right now is 4-9 on the year. So there's only so much longer that we can kind of say this and look at it negatively, because now he's won 2 straight matches. Match over Kipson, 3-setter, I thought, okay. Match over Mickelson on clay, that's a decent win, for him. So 2-0 now on the clay. And he turned that 3-match losing streak now around. So this is looking a little bit more positive for Popyrin. I think he's going to come in with a lot of confidence. Now, the serve to me was strong, but on the clay, I don't feel like it's as effective. I felt like in the towards the end of the 3rd set, I didn't think it looked as strong. Like the ball was popping as much, but remember, these balls are changed out every 6. It varies, but every 6 or so games. So towards the end of that, I think those will be the times that Tiafoe is going to have the opportunity to break, using the slow surface and the kind of puffed out used tennis balls. Tiafoe's 1-0 on the clay with that nice win over Hijikata. Looking at their clay records over the last few years, Tiafoe 11-7 in 2025, 5-6 in 2024, 8-4 in 2023. Popyrin 9-6 in 2025, 4-8 in 2024, 15-6 in 2023. Does have a little bit of familiarity, last year losing record but winning record on the clay. So does have a little bit of familiarity on the clay surface. Let me see if Popyrin's played in this Houston tournament before, because we know Tiafoe has been able to win, and sorry, it's not pulling it up. So maybe he hasn't played here before, but we know Tiafoe has won this tournament. He's made it to the final a couple of times. He has some rapport here in this tournament. I have a strange feeling that this is going to be a three-setter. And I know, I kind of just dissed Popyrin and Mickelson, but I'm still like 50-50 on Frances Tiafoe kind of being a clay quarter. So I think he's going to win this match. I think he's going to have the crowd behind him. He did such a good job today, really getting the crowd behind him and using that momentum to kind of build it into a 6-2 third set, which for me might have been a little bit closer if it was on a little bit more neutral territory. I like that Tiafoe is going to be able to move Popyrin around. I think we're going to look for him to do that. I like the Tiafoe serve. He's going to put a lot of pressure on Popyrin to hold serve. I felt like Popyrin returned really well today against Mickelson. I don't think he's going to get as many clean looks on the second serve as he did today against Mickelson. So that's going to put a little bit of pressure on him. When you're a big server and there's not a lot of pressure on you, you're already up a break. Your serve, your arm loosens up, you feel a little bit better. I don't think he's gonna have that tomorrow against Tiafoe. Tiafoe is going to be able to put that pressure on. Tiafoe is going to be able to put some pressure on the returns on the serve games of Popyrin. So definitely look out for that. I'm starting to talk myself into maybe a straight sets win for Tiafoe. I like the way he's playing. I like the coaching staff. I like the changes that they're slowly making to the Tiafoe game. He's playing a little bit steadier, a little bit more consistent, using the heavy spin to set himself up for the big shot, rather than going one big shot, two big shot. That's a little bit more low percentage. So I'm going to be interested to see kind of how it does against someone that he just lost to last year in Monte Carlo. This is definitely a match that he's going to want a little bit of revenge on. I'm going to take Tiafoe. I'm going to say straight sets. I'm going to say one set's going to be a breaker. So I'm going to take Tiafoe in straight sets to advance to the semifinals. He will be playing Etcheverry. And here's a look at Tiafoe's half of the draw. And I kind of feel like with all these American players starting to lose, I feel like Tiafoe's going to rise to the top. I would love to see a Tiafoe-Paul matchup there in the semis, but Tiafoe-Etcheverry would also be a good matchup. I mean, you got Etcheverry, very strong clay quarter, so that's going to be a big test for Francis if he's able to get out there. Pretty nice draw, though, for him. Hijikata, tough player, but Popyrin, I think he's going to get through in straights there, so that'll be nice. And if he can play Paul, I think that'll be a pretty even match between the two. If he plays Etcheverry, that to me I think is going to be a much trickier match for him. We know Etcheverry's had a lot of good clay wins this year, so we got to look out for him. But I'm still leaning Tiafoe to advance out of this half and get to the finals. Let me know what you guys think. Would love to hear from you in the comments. And here's our look at our round of 16 records. As we mentioned in the intro, We just missed one. So disappointed. Wanted that 8-0 so bad. Thought we were going to have it when Mickelson won that second set, but not to be here. 7-1, not too shabby. We'll see how we do in the quarterfinals. Thanks again for watching, guys. Make sure you like and subscribe. Share your picks in the comments. Share the video. We have 2 other videos out on the recaps for the Bucharest Open and the Marrakesh Open. Make sure you go watch those to catch up on everything tennis. Thanks again, and I'll see you guys in the next video.